Recording in progress.
We're all good to go now?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Great. So I've called it to order and we have an agenda in front of us. I don't know of any changes. No hands up. Consider the motion to move the agenda. Director, any discussion? All in favor? Not opposed? Motion carries. I can see Director Paul over there. I just kind of. We're in a new location today, so it's a little bit. You do have a delegation report. I'm just asking, there are no minutes to approve on this one?
Thank you, Chair. It just was too quick of a turnaround.
Okay.
So we're going to approve that.
Okay, sounds good. We do have a delegation today, Ted Olynyk from BC Hydro, Vancouver Island, Sunshine Coast, regarding BC Hydro updates. Vehicle charging stations on islands and accessibility of net metering. So, welcome to our boardroom. And I thought we'd take a moment just to go around the table real quick and identify the different directors and staff members. So, Director Gisborne, you want to start us off?
I'm Mark Gisborne, elected representative for electoral area B, which is Paradise Valley and all the way down to Myrtle Rocks. You can read the name. So area A, north of Salam and all of Savory, Hernando, and up around into Desolation Sound.
Cindy Elliott, municipal director for the city.
Michelle Jones, corporate officer for the regional district.
And Clay Brando, I represent area C.
Al Radke, and I'm the CAO.
George Stout, another municipal director.
Sandy McCormick, representing Texada Island.
And up on the screen.
I'm Andrew Fall from Lasqueti Island, the off-grid community electoral area E.
Just saw you mention. Sure.
Okay, great.
Well, it's good to see you anyways.
I'm interested to hear anyways. So.
And I understand that you have a few others on as well.
Yeah, sure. Just it's. Should I take
the audio off? Is that better?
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I turned it off. I'm Ted Olynyk. I'm the community relations manager for BC Hydro and Vancouver Island and the Sunshine Coast. And I do have two fellow workers with me. They'll be presenting on the EV aspect and solar, and I will let them provide the introductions to themselves.
I can start. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarb Verma. I'm with BC Hydro. I'm the senior program manager for our self-generation or previously net metering program. I'll pass it on to Margot, my colleague, who can speak to the solar and battery offer at BC Hydro.
Hi, I'm Margot Longland, and I'm our product manager for our solar and battery rebate offers at BC Hydro.
Okay, I'll go next. So my name is Joe English. I am the site planning team lead on our public EV charging program at BC Hydro.
So thank you for accommodating us. I know there was originally a request to meet at UBCM, but when it's issues like this, it's good if we can get in front of the council. We can meet all the council, because I know not everybody always attends UBCM. So this way we can get in front of everybody to address the questions. And because of the beauty of being virtual meetings and that, they are available to the public. These are two critical issues I think is important for the public to hear and have a better understanding of it. Well, so with that, I'll just get into it right away with Joe, and I'll pass it over to Joe. I'll do the presentation, from what I understand, Joe, and click for you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ted. Let me know when you've got the presentation up.
I think I have it up, but.
New 14, so.
There we go. Okay.
We frozen.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Ted. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to provide a brief overview of BC Hydro's public EV charging program for everybody today. So Ted, if you want to zip through, yeah, okay. Okay, so what is BC Hydro doing in this space, and why are we doing it? We have a fairly extensive mandate now from the province to, as it states here, build out a reliable, convenient, affordable EV charging network to support the transition to electric vehicle travel throughout the province. That's primarily our role, but we also, a couple of other bullets here. We obviously are the primary energy supplier as part of that transformation to zero emission transportation. We do work with other public EV service providers in the province to help them get connected to our distribution network. And then we obviously, support EV adoption more generally with lots of different programs around awareness, rebate programs for residential and workplace charging, as well as fleet charging. And just that last sort of statement there at the bottom of the slide, right? The province has a very aggressive goal to get to 100% zero emission vehicle sales by 2035, and so they are very heavily leaning on BC Hydro to help support them in that goal by helping to build out the public EV charging infrastructure required to help meet that target. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a map of our network. The blue dots are where we currently are. The orange dots are where we're going. And in fact, I think a lot of those orange dots are now blue just in the last couple of weeks. So the province more generally has a goal to put 10,000 public EV charging ports into operation by 2030. BC Hydro is going to help the province in that goal by supplying roughly 3,000 of those ports, the majority of which will be DC fast, with some public level 2. There's two kind of main pillars to that deployment strategy. One is what we call geographic connectivity. So that's, those dots that you see going all the way up to the Yukon border. That's, making sure that British Columbians can travel anywhere in the province in a full battery electric vehicle. By placing charging stations, public charging stations, at a maximum of every 150 kilometers on major travel corridors around the province. So that's what that sort of geographic spread dots represents. And then the other pillar is just filling in, meeting demand in areas where we're seeing high EV adoption, right? So that's primarily the Lower Mainland and Southern Vancouver Island, where we're seeing lots of people transitioning to EVs and where the demand is quite high for public charging. Couple of other points here. We do operate a very highly reliable public charging network. Above 99% of reliability or uptime on our network currently, and so that's something that we're very proud of. And then the other stat here is that approximately half of all EV drivers in the province are members of the BC Hydro EV network. Okay. Some of the use cases that we target with our stations, en route charging, right? So there's a couple of slides here, a station in Lillooet and a station along the Coquihalla. So primarily the use case here is fast charging, getting drivers topped up with electricity as quickly as possible and getting them back on the road. Urban charging, like we talked about, meeting demand in busy urban areas where we're seeing high EV uptake. Station here in downtown Victoria and one at UBC. And then more recently, again, with a focus on sort of, busier urban areas, we're getting into this kind of this hub charging concept, right? So these are a couple of more recently completed Surrey hub sites. One at the Surrey Arts Center, another one at a rec center in Surrey. And then this is where we're looking at, 8, 10, 12 fast charge port deployments. with a goal of meeting the demand in those areas. What makes an ideal public EV charging site, right? So ideally, it's open to the public 24/7, 365 days a year. Safe, well lit. So safety is obviously a priority for us. Being close to main transportation routes or areas of high demand. Amenities like complimentary amenities are great for public charging, such as a washroom or a coffee shop, that kind of thing. And then depending on the use case and depending on the area, we'll sort of look at how many chargers can we install based on what we think the anticipated demand will be. And then ideally as well, there's some room for future expansion as charging demand increases in the area. And then finally, ideally we're looking at a 10-year location commitment, right? We based on the investment that we're making, the financial investment that we're making in these stations, we want to be there for at least 10 years, preferably with an option to renew. Why work with hydro? We recognize that there are other service providers in this space. We are, obviously we have aligned values. You know us. We've been working with you for generations. I think one of the main points here, or a couple of the main points, one is we take all the risk off the table for our host partners, right? So BC Hydro pays for 100% of all the capital and operating costs. That includes electricity. We bring in our own dedicated service connection, so it's not going to impact anybody's hydro bill. The reliability is very high, as we discussed. There are a lot of issues with public charging stations around the province not being very reliable, and so again, we're very proud of our reliability. And then I think this last point here, we're here for the long term, right? So we're not going. BC Hydro is not going anywhere anytime soon. So we think that that's also another really key point of working with us. And then I'll just say, on the affordability note, right? So our rates for charging are set by the BC Utilities Commission, and they're based on full cost recovery across our entire network. So we're not trying to make a profit here at the end of the day. We're just trying to pay back the investment that we're making in providing the service across the province for all British Columbians. Okay.
Thank you. I think we'll go to solar, just considering time. If there's any questions, we can do questions at the end then, if that works.
Yep.
Your question to us on solar and net metering is very fortuitous considering our recent announcement, but I'll let others describe it better.
Okay, perfect. Let's get right into it. I'll speak for a little bit and then I'll pass it on to my colleague who can speak about the solar and battery rebate offer. So at BC Hydro, our self-generation program, previously called net metering, it's designed for those who want to reduce electricity bills and gain energy independence by generating their own electricity. And the intent of this program primarily is to allow homeowners, business owners to privately sort of generate their own renewable energy. And then if they also have the flexibility, if they need to, they can rely on the grid for the remainder of the balance. So those are the primary key components of the self-generation program at BC Hydro. And we have a very simple application process, an online application process where they can sort of log in through the My Hydro account, apply, using their My Hydro credentials and other information that's required. And there is just one thing I'd like to note is there is a capacity. There is a 100 kilowatt capacity that is the maximum. That's the bare minimum requirement the maximum requirement for the self-generation application. And it's a simple application. We currently, the credits that are provided to the customer, they're based on our rate schedule that's in the electric tariff. And we've proposed a new application with BCUC to update the tariff as well for net metering services. And we'll know more about that in December as well. Could you move on to the next slide, please? So here's a little bit of a graphic on how it works. I won't go into detail, but it sort of shows how the solar generation converts into electricity and how those credits are generated. And it's simply a visual. There's some specific points along the way, which again, they're there for your reference. I won't dwell into too much. I want to allow time to my colleague to speak with regards to the solar and battery rebate offer. Maybe if you could move on to the next slide, please. So this is what I wanted to sort of spend some time on. So over the years, we've seen a substantial growth, as you have seen. Our program started with a very small volume, and as of August 1st, we've had about over 10,000 self-generation customers, and they are generating total capacity of this 90.2 megawatts has been generated. So quite a substantial increase, and we continue to see a growth in this area. And as I was sort of looking at the number of customers within that regional district, I did notice that there are about 52 in the Powell River region and also 2 in Texada Island. So small portion, but if you have any questions, if you have any inquiries on how to sort of, again, get involved in the self-generation program, happy to provide more information with regards to that. So again, a very quick snapshot of our self-generation program. It's quite successful, and I think you'll be excited to hear more that now we also have a solar and battery rebate offer, which again, I'll pass it on to Margot, who will speak more to it.
Thank you, Sarb. Okay, so we're very excited. We just launched our new solar and battery rebate offer on July the 23rd. This is the first time that BC Hydro has had rebates for these particular products in the market. So it's a milestone for us, for sure. And these rebates are for a number of different customer groups. So you see the table here, we've got rebates for residential homes, multi-unit residential buildings, small, medium businesses, and then specific offer targeting social housing, Indigenous communities, and customers living in our non-integrated areas. So the rebates are set at a fairly simple structure. So $1 per kilowatts or dollars per kilowatt hour, depending on the type of customer and whether you're installing a solar photovoltaic system or a battery energy storage system. You can install one or the other or both and get rebates for those products. So for example, for residential homes, a customer could install a solar photovoltaic system, pair it with a battery storage system, and receive up to $10,000 for that project. So pretty significant rebates for customers. All of these rebates are available for customers who are participating in the self-generation program or then with the net metering rate. So anybody coming through and getting a rebate will be going through the process that Sarb outlined. So the application is combined, so it's convenient for customers. So people who come in and apply for self-generation will also be given the opportunity to apply for a rebate for their project if their project and their customer type is eligible for a rebate. And there's lots more information available online. So a couple more must-haves for eligibility. So it's for BC Hydro customers that have an active BC Hydro account connected to our system. They have to have a bidirectional communicating smart meter. That essentially means they're eligible for self-generation. Qualifying property types and customer types are listed there. So most building types are eligible, but there are some limitations in terms of who can participate. For example, they have to be fixed to the property. So we're not allowing temporary plug-in or mobile applications. So for example, an EV battery doesn't count as an energy storage system. And for registered owners of the property, and like I mentioned, the account holders must be on our self-generation net metering rate. And our full conditions and terms and conditions are available online. So I've just listed here some additional links for more information and a couple of email addresses as well, where people can go to ask additional questions that aren't covered online. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much for having us, for sending to us today. I just want to mention, I have been driving an EV for the past 7 years, and boy, that back in 2017, it was really challenging to get from Victoria up to here or Vancouver up to here. And the BC Hydro EV charging network has really improved dramatically in that time. So I really appreciate it. Before I open it up to any of the other members of the board, I had one question. You said there were 52 for the solar aspect of your presentation. You said there were 52 in the city and 2 on Texada.
Yes.
There's an awful lot of electoral areas that were not covered. like Texada is just area D? And was the 52 just the city, or is that for the rest of the entirety of the Catholic Regional District, or?
It's so I'll have to dig into the data. We had, the way I sort of summarized it was City of Powell River. We had 52 active customers there. So we have the breakdown for each application. We have addresses for each. So based on that, I was able to pull out. I looked at all the different regional districts that fall under Cadet, and those are the only two where I saw we had one with Texada and one with City of Powell River.
Okay, I understand, because a lot of the addresses in the rural areas are actually attributed to Powell River. Do any other board members have questions? Okay, well, let's start with Director McCormick, and then Gisborne, and then Elliott.
Hey, thank you. And thank you very much for being here. Ted, I think my question is for Joe, and it pertains to the EV charging network. I have three separate questions. So the first one is, when you refer to part of the solution, work toward a more sustainable future for all British Columbians, does that include people on islands, or are islands sort of second-class citizens in all this?
Okay. So what I'll say is that our mandate has increased significantly over the last, I'd say sort of 12 to 18 months. So, if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said that our priority is major travel corridors around the province, and then areas with high EV uptake, such as the Lower Mainland, Southern Vancouver Island. But I think today that mandate's changed, right? That 3,000 port target that we've got from the province is now starting to pull in, more broadly the rest of the province, right? Including the Gulf Islands. So we're just more recently now taking a closer look at the Gulf Islands to see what we can do in terms of providing public EV charging. And we're happy to take a closer look at Texada as well, following up on this call, to see what makes sense in terms of the use cases. Some of the things that we want to look at are, how many residents have you got on the island that drive EVs versus how many tourists have you got coming to the island, or visitors coming with EVs. What makes sense in terms of fast charging versus level 2, those kind of things. But we're certainly happy to take a closer look now.
So if an application was to be made on behalf of island, Texada or any other island, would that be entertained? Would that be considered by BC Hydro?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
May I continue with the follow-up? Sure. Thank you. It's really important for us because it's not for the residents who live there. People who have their own EV have their own charging systems. It's for visitors. And it's to encourage people to come to an island with an electric vehicle, and they don't have to be afraid. Now, I know some people have supercharged batteries that go a long way, but not everybody has that. So I was told that internet connectivity is a critical issue for BC Hydro with an EV charging station, a public EV charging station. And can you explain that? Is that true, or is it not?
Yeah, so it's preferable. It makes our lives easier. So our network management system that operates the back end of our charging network does require a cellular service. So again, it's preferable. It makes our lives a lot easier. If we do need to go into a location that doesn't have cellular service, we can now employ a satellite connection. And we have had to do that recently, like that map that I showed you that has stations going all the way up to the Yukon border. Some of those stations are now connected via satellite. So it's not a showstopper, but yeah, it does make our lives more complicated. So ideally, we've got cellular service at the locations that we're looking at.
Thank you. And my third and final question is, are there portable chargers that could be used, say, in a regional park in the summertime, but be based at the local library in the wintertime?
That's a really good question. We don't have any on our network, but it is something that we are looking into currently. The concept would be to mount chargers on a skid of some kind. And then the trick in that situation is how do you provide the electrical service to that skid, right? So ideally, you've got an overhead distribution wire that you can connect to easily. And in that instance, yeah, like it. So again, it's not something that we're super familiar with, but if the use case is there and it makes sense to do so, we can certainly look at that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair.
No problem. Director Gisborne.
I'm just gonna request an extension of the time first, because
Okay, yeah, we've gone past the 5 minutes. I assume everybody is pretty comfortable with thumbs up already. Great, Director Gisborne.
I just wanted to make sure. I got a couple of questions around the solar and battery rebate highlights. I see residential homes, multi-unit residential, and small medium business. So my first question is, wearing my regional district hat, we do have some facilities and, community centers. What could these rebates apply to regional districts if we wanted to do a project like this? Or is this only for the private sector?
So
Go ahead.
no. And so what I was talking about today was our brand new offer for our rebates. And these were primarily designed for smaller installation applications, so under 100 kilowatt systems. But I also should have mentioned that we do have other BC Hydro offers that are for larger commercial and industrial programs. So if the customer is on an eligible rate code, an eligible property, a customer type, they can get a rebate from us. But some customers who are classified as commercial or industrial might also be eligible for our custom incentives. So we have incentives for batteries as well as for solar as well. So if you have a larger building or a larger project, and in particular, if you're thinking of like a municipal or regional district building, that type of building would probably be a better fit for our larger custom incentive offer. But you just connect with us and we'll connect you to someone who can sort of take a look at what you're thinking and recommend, course of action in terms of whether it's rebates or our custom incentive program.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a really good answer. Because every now and then we get a building that needs a new roof, and maybe this might work. So now, take my regional director hat and put it on my kind of more farmer hat. I noticed residential homes and then small and medium business. There's a number of farms in the rural area. We got a lot of roof space on our barns and things like that. If those properties were to make an application under this program, I presume that would kind of fit more under the small and medium business, because a farm is kind of a business. Is that a correct assumption, or does the farm fall under just the residential home thing?
It actually depends on how the farm account and rate is set up. So we have some buildings, say like a farm home, that might be on like a residential rate, but it's a special like a special coded residential rate. And then other properties or meter, property or buildings on the site might be commercial. So it just depends. So they're going to be eligible for something. It just depends on the customer type and the rate code. Yeah, and we do see farms, buildings coming in and applying. So we see that in the database in terms of historical who's participated in self-generation. So I'm expecting to see a number of those customers come through with the new rebates as well.
Okay. Well, those really good answers, and I guess that's all my questions for now.
Okay, Director Elliott, and then Director Lennox.
Thank you, Chair. So happy that you came. I was kind of behind the initiation of asking to talk to you folks at the UBCM, and so it's really nice that you came here. First of all, I want to say I traveled north in the summer to go see my mother, and she lives in Kitlunga, BC. And there is now an EV charging station just down the road, like from walking distance to her house. And so that is, and Kitlunga is a very tiny community, but it sits at the junction of Highway 37 north to Alaska. So it's part of that grid that you're trying to do. So we were all very excited to see that in my mom's small town. So thank you for increasing the people's ability to drive north with electric vehicles, because it's never been possible before. The net metering, I live in a home with solar panels all over the roof. It was totally set up for net metering. It's got one of the cool meters that goes both ways, but it was never properly administered into BC Hydro's system. I spent years trying to sort it out. The original electrical contractor that hooked it up is no longer functional, so I can't get some piece of information that's required. But my house is running with power. It's got power going both ways. But the only part that doesn't happen is I don't get credits. And so BC Hydro is eating my credits and they won't help me solve the problem. So it's been this way since 2018. It's now 2024. I live at Unit 26730 Cranberry Street.
This is very personal to you.
I know, but here, I'm going to get to the point so that they can verify the information is why I did that. Every time I try to solve the issue, there's no one to phone at BC Hydro. Who do people phone to resolve this issue? There's some emails, there's no one to phone because the net metering program doesn't have people to talk to at BC Hydro. At least they haven't every time I've tried.
Yeah, so, sorry.
I was gonna say, I think we can chat offline about your particular case for sure. But...
Right, but everybody might want to know, who do you phone? How do you resolve these issues?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So you're absolutely right. We don't have a dedicated phone line for self-generation customers. We do have a contact center. So the calls primarily come through our regular contact centers and get escalated to a self-generation team. And with regards to your inquiry or specific to self-generation net metering, it's advised that they contact via the email. So like you said, and Margot's noted in the presentation deck as well, we have that email address, and the response within 2 business days, the customer should receive a response. So with regards to your specific scenario, I would love to know more about what was the situation and how or where we had issues of resolving it. And I'll be definitely looking into it myself directly to make sure that we find some sort of a resolution. There must be some sort of a reason. And again, not too sure till we look into it, but happy to support on that one.
Director Lennox?
Yeah, thanks. Just quickly, thanks for your presentation. I'd be surprised if people were outside of my area. Do you want me to stop?
No, go ahead. We'll go back to Director.
I'd be surprised that there aren't people outside the city limits. I know lots of folks in my area with a lot of panels on their house. So hopefully your data could be flushed out into the areas of the regional district. That'd be great. And then really just sort of along the lines of Director McCormick about how does a community sort of, what are the criteria to obtain a terminus, an EV charging station in Lund, which is where I live. It is a terminus. It's the start of Highway 101, not the end. But it stands to reason the points you made about tourism and people, that it's not necessarily just the residents, and there's a lot of activity there. So I'm just wondering, I'll go through the website, but do you need land? Do you need, you need a drop site? You need a 10-year commitment? I saw some of that, but do you need the regional district, I guess is my question.
Joe, I'll look to you.
Yeah, yeah, I think all of the above, right? Yeah. Obviously we need a site, right, at the end of the day. And so we would go through those site selection criteria that I showed you in terms of what makes the most sense for siting EV charging, and then look at the use cases, right? Is there a high demand for fast charging in that community where you've got, travelers that sort of come up for the day and then need to get topped up before they leave at the end of the day? Typically with sort of what we call terminus sites, it's kind of more of an L2 use case where people come for the day and have the time to plug into an L2, 3-4 hours kind of thing, and get topped up. So those are all the things that we would look at. And if you want to get your name in the queue, I think you can either, reach out through, we have a form on the website that you can fill out to submit an inquiry, or you can go through TED to go directly to our team. But again, yeah, we're more than happy to look at the community of Lund for public EV charging.
I think just to add, I think we just like anything, you're going to start with the easy stuff. What makes sense so people can get from here to Wonga along the way. And if there's the offshoots of the routes that we can add to it, well, that's the benefit of the system and what we're doing. And I think we're getting to that point now. I know the first inquiries came in. What about this area? What about this area? Well, the idea was just getting from point A to point B. And we'll get that to facilitate, as you say, in the last 7 years, facilitate the network. Now we're able to look at other areas. Which is good.
Really, I apologize for cutting you off before.
Thank you. So the other part I was super interested in was the information about self-generation for larger, say, municipal properties, a rec center maybe. How do we find out more about this? Is there a way that we're promoting that? And would rebates be a significant part of the capital improvements required to maybe do self-generating on a larger municipal thing? So if more about that would be really helpful.
Okay, well, I can provide some high level information. I'm not the manager of that those rebates, or they're not rebates, they're actually incentives. It's part of our larger custom incentive offers. So we can follow up with some information on that after the fact. So typically what you do is you'd come forward to BC Hydro and indicate that you're interested in doing a project. There's often a study or some initial assessment that happens. We review that, and there's essentially agree on what the scope of the project is going to look like, what the incentive payments are going to be as part of that project. And then the project is implemented and payments made. And so, like I said, I'm not an expert in that area. I'm just providing some information that I am aware of on a high level, but I can certainly connect you with the managers of those areas after the meeting.
Great, that's great. So I'm not seeing any other hands up around here, so I'll just thank the Dr. Fall.
Sorry, just
Andrew?
one short question, if I may. And thank you for the presentation. It's great. But there is actually a way that your programs might help Lasqueti, because while we're on Lasqueti, there's no BC Hydro, so we don't get the rebates or access to those. But in French Creek, a lot of people have cars over there. There's a big parking lot. It's a harbor authority. It's not BC Ferries terminal. It's a French Creek Harbor Authority. So the general question is have you targeted sites on harbor authorities? And if I was specific for that, using that as an example, if I was to try to advance that, would that come through the harbor authority making a request or reaching out to you? Because the cars are sitting there and there may be people arriving, they might be much more encouraged to have EVs if they could know that they could charge when they arrive if their batteries are low and so on.
Yeah, so I'm not super familiar with Harbor Authority. And so this is on Lasqueti?
Yeah, it's in French. So the Harbor Authority is in French Creek. It's just north of Parksville. It's between Parksville and Qualicum. So there's so it's on Vancouver Island.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where the foot passenger ferry from Lasqueti Island arrives on Vancouver Island. And a lot of residents of Lasqueti leave their cars parked there. Plus there's boaters and so on. But especially residents of Lasqueti, there's a couple hundred cars that are sitting there, and it would be really nice to get some of those electrified.
Yeah, so again, I think having you submit a request to the program team, either through TED or through the form on our website, at least gets the process started. We can have a look at it. And I guess I should say, depending on, if it's a good fit for the program, we'll obviously take a closer look at it, right? If we don't think it's a good fit for the program, we might direct you to some of the resources available for installing your own charging, right? Level 2 is fairly affordable to install. So we can, always point you in that direction for doing it yourself and accessing some funding from BC Hydro and the province to offset the cost.
Yeah, that's great. I'll talk to the Harbor Authority and see if there's an interest, and then see what we can do. Thanks.
Right on. Okay, thank you.
Great. So seeing no other questions, I want to thank you for coming here today. Thank all of you for coming here today, and we appreciate the information.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
For a card.
Thank you.
So moving on, we have no unfinished business. We have 2 items of correspondence. I don't know if there's any business arising from said correspondence. None. Move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? No hands. Do we have a motion to? So moved. Okay, Director Lennox, thank you. Seconded by Director Gisborne. All in favor? Opposed, motion carries. That was it. So no resolutions removed, no resolutions, reports, bylaws, new business, question period. Galinsky?
Hi, Chair Galinsky from the Peak here. No questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, thanks very much. And so we are going in camera. Would somebody like to read that?
My pleasure. I move that the board move in camera, the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under section 91. C, labor relations or other employee relations, and N, the consideration of whether a board meeting should be closed under provision of this subsection or subsection 2.
Seconded by Lennox. Thank you. Any questions? Any debate? All in favor? Motion carries. None opposed. Going in camera. Who says still? All good? Are we on?
Yes, thanks, Chair. We're in open session.
Okay, we're back in open session after an in-camera, and there is no rise in report, so I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Corporate officer, I do have some notices of motion, but nothing else. So
Are they created in that report?
in this, yes.
I can give that to you, Michelle.
What time is that John Rustad thing going on?
Registration starts now. 6.
What was that, the conservative?